You never expect the same person who once curled into you at night and whispered, "I can't live without you," to one day look you dead in the eye and tell you to leave. But that's exactly how it unfolded for me. Her name was Lauren, and once, I believed with everything in me that she was my always. We weren't flawless. Of course, we had our highs and lows like any couple does, but I believe love always pulled us through. Or so I thought. Sometimes love doesn't end with shouting matches or dramatic exits. Sometimes it fades. Quietly, in the pauses, in the days when one person just stops showing up. That's how our marriage ended. Not in a blaze, but an erosion. Small moments, subtle shifts. I come home from a long day, aching for a hug, a warm smile, even just say, "How was work?" But she'd barely lift her head from her phone. We used to make dinner together, chopping veggies, teasing each other over wine, music playing softly in the background. Lately, there was no laughter, no music. She'd already eaten or skipped dinner altogether. And when we sat at the same table, our conversations felt sterile, awkward and dry, like two strangers forced to make small talk at a conference. Still, I kept trying. I'd surprise her with her favorite pastries from that little bakery on Fifth. Took her car for servicing before she even asked. I left notes on her mirror with words like, "You're beautiful, and we're going to be okay." She threw them away. No reaction. No thank you. Just indifference and an ever-present chill in the air. At night, she'd sleep turn away from me. Not just physically, but emotionally gone. Like the idea of even brushing against me made her skin crawl. I'd stretch out my hand just to feel close to her, even if only for a second. She'd flinch, pull the blanket tighter, and shut me out. There wasn't another man. No secret affair. No explosive betrayal. Just an invisible barrier she had been quietly building, brick by brick, until I could no longer reach her, and I was left standing outside of my own marriage. One night, I finally brought it up. She was on the couch with her laptop. I eased down next to her and quietly asked, "Are we okay?" She didn't look up, just sighed and replied, "I'm tired, Mark. I don't want to have this talk again." "But we never talk anymore," I said softly. She closed the laptop, met my eyes, and in that moment, I knew she had already left me in her heart. "I feel smothered," she said. "It's the same thing over and over. You're too emotional, always needing something. I just want space. Can't you give me that?" "I'm not asking for much," I answered, "just to not feel like a stranger in the home we built together." She stood, walked into the kitchen, and without turning around, mumbled, "God, I wish you'd just disappear from my life." I didn't move. She hadn't yelled. She hadn't slammed a door. She delivered it coldly, like canceling a subscription. I sat motionless, staring at the space where she vanished. The woman I had loved for 7 years had just told me to vanish, as if I were a burden, something to be thrown out. And here's the strange part. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I got up. I walked into our bedroom, opened my closet, and began to pack. No storm outside. No tearful music score. Just quiet drawers sliding open and hangers clicking as I pulled down the life I thought would last forever. I packed what I could into 2 duffel bags. Left everything else. Not out of generosity, but because I did want reminders of what we'd become. I grabbed my phone, my wallet, and my keys. At 1:14 a.m., I stepped out that front door. She never came after me. No text, no call, no voice from behind pleading, "Don't go." She told me to disappear. And for the first time in months, I listened. I drove. No destination. Just asphalt and headlights. When the sky began to lighten, I pulled into a rest stop, slept in my car for a couple of hours, and then continued on to my brother's place, 2 states away. I told him I needed a few days. He didn't push. Just handed me a spare key and let me crash on the couch. For the next week, I drifted like a ghost, wandering unfamiliar streets, sipping cheap coffee, looking at the sky and wondering how someone could go from kissing you goodnight to treating you like you never existed. Lauren never reached out. Not once. That silence told me everything. She never thought I'd actually leave. She probably assumed I'd sleep at a buddy's place, sulk for a bit, and come crawling back, tail between my legs. But I didn't. I didn't return. I didn't check her socials. I didn't send a message. I vanished, not to punish her, not out of spite, but because when someone tells you, clear as daylight and without an ounce of regret, to disappear, you owe it to yourself to listen. Eventually, I rented a room in a quiet part town, a shared apartment, picked up freelance gigs. Bit by bit, I rebuilt myself from the ground up. I changed my number, cut ties with mutual friends, moved in silence. No drama, no explanations. I became a man with no past. And that's what saved me. Through whispers via distant cousins or old college connections, I heard that Lauren was telling people I'd abandoned her, that I just walked out one night. She made me the quitter, the one who gave up. Let her. I wasn't interested in rewriting my story for people who hadn't been in our home, in our bed, in the silence between us. Because here's what mattered. I gave her everything I had, and when she finally asked me to leave, I did, and in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Disappearing wasn't the hard part. Staying gone, that's what took strength. Because after I left Lauren behind, I didn't just change my zip code. I changed everything. After I left, I headed to Austin. No goodbyes. No explanations. I didn't tell a single person. I found a tiny studio apartment above a greasy auto shop. The walls were so thin you could hear the guy next door sneeze, and the old fridge barely kept anything cold. It wasn't much, not even close to comfortable, but it was mine. It was quiet, and most importantly, it was a world away from a version of myself who had spent years begging for the bare minimum of love. The early months were brutal. I won't sugarcoat it. I hustled through random gigs, food delivery, odd tech jobs, some days loading trucks, others designing websites for clients who paid in pieces. I stretched every dollar, ate instant noodles, rotated between the same 3 shirts, slept on a mattress directly on the hardwood floor. But for all the discomfort, I wasn't unhappy. For the first time in years, I could breathe. There were no icy glances, no tension waiting behind every door, no exhausting efforts to keep someone from slipping away. The silence in that small, bare room wasn't painful. It was medicine. Then one morning, I caught my reflection in the cracked mirror hanging above the bathroom sink. My face looked hollow, worn out. Scruff clung to my jawline, and my skin looked like it hadn't seen daylight in months. I didn't recognize the man staring back at me, and that was the moment it all shifted. That day, I made a promise. I wouldn't just fade away. I'd transform. I found a no-frills gym down the block. Dusty weights, no air conditioning, just hard work and sweat. I showed up every day, especially when I didn't want to. I ran before dawn, when the streets were still empty and no one was around to watch me struggle. With every step, my mind started catching up with my body. I picked up books again on psychology, personal discipline, building a business, understanding worth. I swapped late-night distractions for podcasts, cut out alcohol, bought a rail bed, found a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to grow without dragging old wounds into the future. Within a year, life looked different. I landed a remote position doing UX design. Nothing glamorous, but it paid consistently. I finally bought a decent couch, upgraded my kitchen supplies, picked up a second-hand car, and slowly rebuilt my wardrobe. I stood taller. People noticed. Strangers smiled. Women glanced longer. But I wasn't chasing attention. Not yet. I was focused on becoming the kind of man who doesn't plead to be loved, but commands respect quietly, not by force, but by presence, by stability, by peace. Through it all, I never reached out to Lauren. Not once. No messages. No social media checks. She asked me to disappear, and I honored that. What she didn't expect was that I wouldn't disappear into darkness. I would rise. Here and there, people from the old life tried to pull me back. A mutual friend would send an invite to a birthday or a casual group chat. A cousin once messaged, "Ran into Lauren. She asked about you." I ignored it all. I wasn't curious. I didn't want updates. I wasn't waiting for her to change. She had made her decision. And in her version of the story, I'm sure I was the one who quit, the one who vanished in shame, probably crashing at a sibling's house or drowning in cheap liquor. Let her believe that. Meanwhile, I was sharpening my edge. By the end of year 2, I launched a side business, helping small businesses build their online brands. It started with a handful of clients. Then referrals began pouring in. Every dime I made, I reinvested. By year 3, I had a steady income stream. No debt, no noise, just progress. Physically, I was transformed. 30 pounds lighter, leaner, clearer skin, better posture. I no longer shrank into rooms. I owned them. I didn't wait to be seen. I didn't ask to be chosen. I created my own space. Emotionally, I was steady. No angry reactions. No desperation. Just calm confidence. One evening, I sat in my upgraded apartment, a clean 2-bedroom unit in a modern building, with wide windows and a view of the downtown lights. I sipped hot tea. No TV, just the soft buzz of city life in the distance. And it hit me. 5 years. 5 whole years since I last laid eyes on Lauren. Since she told me, without hesitation, to get out of her life. I'm sure she imagined I'd come crawling back, that I'd knock on her door, voice trembling, saying, I still love you. Maybe she even told others that I ghosted her, painted herself as the one left behind. Let her. I didn't need to rewrite our history. I had outgrown it. I didn't hate her. In a strange way, I was grateful. That rejection, that cold dismissal, it forced me to rebuild, to meet the man I had buried beneath years of self-doubt. And in that, she gave me the greatest gift of all. Then, the past walked in when I least expected it. It was a Friday night. A teammate of mine was getting married, small, cozy ceremony. They'd asked me to help design the space. I almost said no, but something nudged me to show up. So I did. The venue was this charming, rustic hall on the edge of town. String lights hung overhead. A small live band played acoustic covers. Guests gathered near the garden where the reception was being held. I walked in, adjusting my cuff links, taking in the warmth of the evening. And that's when I saw her, Lauren, standing at the bar. Same eyes, same energy, but different, softer, like time had weathered her a little, taught her a few lessons of her own. She hadn't noticed me yet, but I noticed her, and for a heartbeat, I froze. 5 years. Then she turned. Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw it. Her body stiffened. Her hand, holding the glass, trembled slightly. Her lips parted like she was trying to breathe. And she didn't run, didn't look away. She sat down. She sat like someone who just had the floor pulled from beneath her, because the man she told to vanish had returned, not begging, not broken, but taller, sharper, and out of reach. That's where this chapter ends. She thought she ended me, but all she really did was set me free. I arrived just moments before the ceremony began, slipped quietly into a seat midway down the aisle, nodded politely at unfamiliar faces, and folded my hands in my lap, calm and unnoticed. I smiled when it felt appropriate and stayed out of the spotlight. Later, during cocktail hour, I found myself by the patio railing, sipping sparkling water and watching the sunset stretch over the vineyard. That's when something shifted, subtle but undeniable. You ever sense someone's presence before they come into view? That sudden ripple in the atmosphere? That's exactly what I felt. I turned slightly, and there she was, Lauren, her hair pulled back in a clean braid, a slim black dress hugging her frame, pearl earrings catching the light. She moved with slow, unhurried steps toward the bar, unaware of me. I didn't know why she was there. Maybe she came with someone. Maybe she was friends with the bride. Life is a funny way of crossing paths without permission. She hadn't spotted me yet, but I saw her, and I didn't move. I didn't feel anger. I wasn't curious. I just stood still, quiet. She looked older, seasoned, really, not in a harsh way, but in that worn-down kind of way that comes when life doesn't match the plans you made, and pride won't let you say out loud. I turned my gaze back toward the vineyard, ready to let her pass unnoticed, to remain a quiet shadow from her past. But she didn't walk by. Something stopped her. Maybe the shape of my shoulders. Maybe someone nearby said my name. Or maybe, after all those years of falling asleep back to back, the outline of my presence was burned into her memory. She hesitated, then softly said, "Mark?" I turned to face her slowly. She stared like she wasn't sure if her eyes were lying. Her gaze scanned my face. The beard, the sharper angles, the confident posture, the way my suit fit. I watched the moment it hit her. That split second when she realized it was me. Her breath caught. Her lips parted. Then she stumbled. Her knees buckled slightly, and she had to grip the edge of the drink table for balance. A friend nearby reached to steady her, confused. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. But her eyes didn't fill gradually. They flooded. Tears surged like a dam breaking all at once. "I thought you were gone," she whispered. I tilted my head, voice steady. "You told me to disappear." She stepped closer, visibly shaking. "I didn't mean it like that. I was angry. I wasn't thinking." I didn't respond. "Mark," she said again, wiping her face with trembling fingers. You look so different. I mean, it's really you." I nodded. "It is." She searched my expression, maybe hoping to find a man she remembered beneath the surface. But that man was long gone. "I tried to find you," she lied. I raised a brow, just enough to show I wasn't buying it. "You never called." Her composure cracked. "I didn't think you'd want to speak to me. I thought I ruined everything. And I did." She stepped forward again, her voice breaking. "You don't know how many nights I stayed up wishing I could take it all back. I imagined you walking through the door again so many times. But I never thought it would actually happen." I could have lashed out. I could have told her about every lonely night, every holiday I spent alone, every time I achieved something and had no one to share it with. But I didn't, because the difference between growth and pain is silence. So I let her talk. "I was cruel," she whispered. "I pushed you away when all you needed was support. And when you left, I thought you'd come crawling back, like the others I've driven away. But you never did. You vanished. And I realized I didn't just lose my husband. I lost the only person who truly believed in me." Now she was crying openly, the kind of crying that comes from knowing it's already too late. "I've changed, Mark. I swear, I'm not the same person you walked away from." And for the first time, I believed her. She had changed, but not in strength. She had grown weaker, because now she understood the weight of what she had once tossed so casually. Because telling someone to leave your life isn't just closing a door. It's setting fire to the bridge and praying they still swim back. "I don't hate you, Lauren," I said softly. Her eyes widened, glimmering with hope. "Then is there a chance?" I paused, and then I said the words that lived inside me for 5 long, silent, disciplined years. "I'm not the one who disappeared. You were. You just didn't realize it until I stopped waiting." Her lip trembled. "But I still love you." I gave her a gentle, almost sad smile. "Then that love will have to be enough for you?" And I turned away, not out of anger, not to punish her, but because once you learn to honor yourself, you stop begging anyone else to see your worth. Behind me, she stood there, frozen, hollow, undone. Not because I had changed into someone unrecognizable, but because, for the first time, she finally recognized exactly who I had become.